Now, you mean to tell me that Roland Martin brings on uh, a black militia group holding guns, looking for the KKK old hangout, but they was the first people, or not the first people, but they was quick to join the propaganda towards the Israelites. They never brought Israelites on their show, not one group. They never brought them on their show to ask them any questions. You see, never let them give their point of view. But this black militia guy who goes to the KKK's building and say, bring up children of Israel and 12 tribes at the beginning of his statement, you bring this dude on your show and let him, without interruption, spill every little thought that came across his head. But Hebrew Israelites, you using the propaganda that the people that's against them using. You calling them black, you calling them a hate group. You see, how is you bringing the black militia guy on your show? It must be some affiliation. It must be two individuals that's set up by the COINTELPRO, you see, and by the secret society government. Two paid agents to try to social engineer the black community, the so-called black community, because they don't want to bring the individuals who's going to wake our people up. They bringing two agents to social engineer our people into sleep, into a deep sleep, and try to set up the true people that's trying to wake our people up by trying to say their name in the mix of a black militia when none of our people carry guns. None of our people preach to carry guns or to do anything to the government. We preach to be peaceful with all men. We don't even want to speak our own words. We thus saith the Lord everything. But he was quick to bring this guy. As soon as the guy marched. Now, Israel United in Christ marched all the way all over the country. And he wasn't so gung-ho to bring them on his show and ask them questions. Well, what was the march about? You see? Now listen to him and what he said about these Israelite groups and how he said it. Listen to his words. Now notice how he reads this propaganda, but with the militia guy, he didn't read any propaganda out there of what other people were saying about this guy. He brought the guy on and asked him questions and let him spur out his point of view to the situation. But he want to use propaganda that's put out against these individuals or trying to link these individuals to a certain group when there was no proof or anything, but they wanted to quote everything these people said.
This is the New York Post. They follow a hateful religious sect called the Black Hebrew Israelites. And they believe that Jews were, first of all, I'm reading the story here. They believe that white people are agents of Satan. Shots were fired into that. 4 people were killed on the inside. The SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, calls them a strongly anti-white, anti-Semitic group. This was just a crazy shooting that took place yesterday, Monique.
And didn't there's an officer who was shot right before it happened, but some distance away, so they haven't been able to put all the pieces together. But I was just saddened to hear about that. It's so sad for all of the families that are involved, and hate is unacceptable. There's no exception to that.
And it speaks to, again, the issue, Amisha, that we have in this country when it comes to domestic terrorism. In America, largely it's white domestic terrorism, but we have domestic terrorism, but here we don't want to call it that. We just call it a shooting.
Absolutely. I find that very interesting and problematic at the same time, because when you know that there is someone who is out to get a particular race or out to get a particular religion, and they have basically set up their own theology around these things, that is what that is. You are willing to erect that type of violence. You are willing to go through great pains to make sure that it happens. And I think that, using that term should not be napalm for the American public. Domestic terrorism does occur right here on our soil. These are people who were born and bred right here in America. And I think that that's still a very hard thing for our government, but as well as citizens to actually come to grips with. It's a whole lot easier to, even when wrong, point out terrorism from somebody who does not look like us and who does not come from this country.
Roland, was this group, as part of this shooting, was this the same group that was on the Lincoln Mall with the Indian and the young kid from the Midwest with the MAGA hat on?
It was an affiliated group.
My greatest fear is that all hate groups are completely, I want to abolish them quite quickly, whatever their race is, and I agree with Monique. My concern here, once we get through the grieving, is that this hate group, because they look like us, that our conservatives and Republicans will use this to justify the fact that they don't own the white hate group space, who are killing more police officers than black people could ever kill on an annual basis. And so, I don't think hate speech has never been free speech. I think if you're a hateful group, however you define them, and it needs to be defined, then I think you lose your First Amendment right. I just do.
Well, in fact, look, they already doing that.
That's not the law, by the way, but I believe that.
Chris, they're already doing that. I mean, all of a sudden, the media, you're not even covering this story because of these black separatists. But if they were white, you would be all over it.
Well, you see, with no proof of any affiliation, he ready to bring these people up on his panel and spew out all kind of false misinformation, making blanket statements about Hebrew Israelites. Now, this is in general Hebrew Israelites. He putting them all together, and he making blanket statements talking about terrorism. These people are boule paid agents of the CIA and the FBI. It's clear. How you bringing on a black militia guy walking through Atlanta with guns, trying to make himself affiliated with him, but you ain't push him and try to ask him no hard questions or anything. He didn't even tell the man what other people were saying. The man had to tell him that other people were saying this, and we trying to take over Texas, and we trying to do this and this. He didn't even put no pressure on the man. He let the man spill. Hey, what you got to say? But he goes with the people that's talking against the Hebrew Israelites when they was never affiliated with the group. There's no evidence that these people was affiliated with the group. But you trying to link these people to the group because we telling people the truth. And you see, these people are agents, man, and they showing they works. How you say Satan has ministers? The ministers are gonna show themselves by the works. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. 15. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. You see, these people are ministers for Satan. You see, and that's what they're doing. They're ministering for Satan, regurgitating the mess that he say when he try to make himself look good and try to demonize God's chosen people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who keeping the commandments and obeying the law, and who is putting faith in Yahweh Shah Mashiach. But I'm going to leave it there. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekal Kadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. The kingdom is at hand. Shalom.